Hello everyone! We started this week with the story of the Druid Order Hall campaign, in which we found out that Malorn was taken by the Nightmare, and we went into the Rift of Aln to get him out. We've also seen Ursoc taken by Xavius, Cenarius fell to the curse of the Nightmare, Ysera was shot down out of the sky, and we were forced to take her out. The Nightmare is spreading, taking out a whole bunch of our allies, and has to be stopped. Its source rests within the world tree Shaladrassil, where at the roots, Malfurion Stormrage is being held captive by the image of Xavius.
Such a dilemma, High Priestess. Kneel beside your beloved as he draws his final breath? Or watch the temple of your goddess burn?
Dranda decided that the Temple of Elune and Ysera, they took priority, so after helping her, she requests further aid and asks adventurers to go into Darkheart Thicket and save her husband. In the shadow of Shaladrassil, the Nightmare permeates every inch of the once lush forest, where the eldest and greatest druids once tended to the woods, meditating beneath the Great World Tree. Corruption and madness now reign. Deep within the tangled thicket, the Nightmare Lord Xavius works to break the will of his greatest prize.
Those who challenge me only speed themselves to an agonizing death.
So says the shadow of Xavius.
Be still, worm. I will deal with you shortly.
Xavius has tried to break Malfurion before in a story told within the novel Stormrage. There, we read about Malfurion slowly being tormented and turned into a tree, like he had done to Xavius during the War of the Ancients. But in the end of the book, Malfurion was saved and Xavius seemed to have been defeated. The Nightmare was cleansed as far as possible, but at the Rift of Aln, Malfurion could push it no further. He sensed the ancient evil that he had felt in Power Xavius before, the old god N'Zoth's connection, and decided to seal off the area, knowing that the day was won, but one day we would have to fight this war. That war is now upon us, as Xavius somehow has returned, and his shade is now tormenting the Archdruid. We go in to save him, and in a way stand several enemies taken by the Nightmare. First, there's Glaidalis at the Sanctum of Kahanir, the place where the artifact was stored before the Nightmare took it over, and Malun quickly took it with her so that druids could cleanse it and claim it.
Defilers, I can smell the Nightmare in your blood. Be gone from these woods, or suffer nature's wrath! Defilers, so it is you who have befouled these woods with the Nightmare.
Glaidalis was once known as amongst the most talented shapeshifters in all of Azeroth, and the Elders of Moonglade would regularly send their most promising disciples to his care for instruction. But as has sadly too often been the case, those who were closest to nature are often the first to fall into the Nightmare's clutches. He is still sane enough to recognize a druid when it's your party, and he will acknowledge the artifact that they wield.
The Nightmare clouds my thoughts no more.
A fluke. Savor it and pray you do not face me next.
They will be more than prepared, for your true power rests in the Nightmare.
Silence, weakling. When you open your mouth again, it will be to cry for mercy.
Next up is Hart, father of the Glade and master of puns.
My bark is worse than my bite.
An ancient who formed from an offshoot of Shaladrassil itself, Hart has survived the Sundering, the Cataclysm and countless blights. The ancient was able to weather these storms by drawing strength from the essence of the dream itself, but now that wellspring has become his undoing. It's interesting that the Dungeon Journal says that he's from an offshoot of Shaladrassil, while at the same time he survived the Sundering. The Sundering is when the land of Kalimdor split apart after the War of the Ancients, and it's after this moment that Illidan Stormrage he created a new Well of Eternity, and then the Dragon Aspects decided to grow a world tree over it called Nordrassil. It was said that Nordrassil was the original world tree, so it seems that that's no longer true and Shaladrassil came first, or perhaps it's just a lore mix-up. That said, very little is known about Shaladrassil as a whole. We know that the druids, they shaped all of Val'sharah to be an echo of the Emerald Dream, so it's most likely created by them, but the details are unclear.
I told you to leave me alone. A pity you have come this far only to die at the hands of Xavius.
An empty threat. You hold no sway over this realm, Nightmare Lord.
Bold words for a prisoner. Even an echo of my power was enough to overwhelm you.
After Oakhart comes Dresseron, once a young green drake tending to the whelps in the shadows of the Great World Tree. Dresseron is now engulfed in nightmare, lost in a fog of hatred and fear. He lashes out with powerful wings and a withering breath, unleashing his rage on any who stumble into his clutches. And after putting this drake out of his misery, we finally confront the shade of Xavius in the heart of dread.
What is this? Don't make me laugh!
Once a powerful mage and counselor to Queen Ysera, Xavius forged a pact with Sargeras to enable the Legion's first invasion of Azeroth. Cursed and tormented in the wake of that defeat, Xavius now projects his true power from the nightmare into our world, focusing his dark might to break the spirit of his old rival Malfurion. Like the details of Shaladrassil, the return of Xavius has not been fully explained. We know that he was defeated by Malfurion in Ysera's palace. His spirit was then taken by Sargeras, who took all that pleased him and turned it into the first of the Seder. Perhaps that's the reason why he keeps coming back, his connection to being a demon, since they can only truly be slain within the twisting nether. Malfurion then turned Xavius in his Seder form. He turned that into a tree. That tree got in contact with the old gods, and a link to the Emerald Dream was established. It seems like those connected to the dream in some way, they have a similar immortality as the demons do. As we see with the wild gods, for example, several were slain during the War of the Ancients, or in Cenarius' case, slain by orcs during Warcraft 3. They did not completely die, instead their spirit went to the Emerald Dream, from which we summoned them back onto Azeroth during the Cataclysm. So not only does Xavius have a possible connection to immortality offered from the twisting nether, perhaps his link to the Emerald Dream works in a similar way, but like I said, no real details for the return of Xavius were given.
This must be some kind of mistake.
Well-earned victory. We must, however, stay vigilant. Deep inside the nightmare, Xavius remains unvanquished. The enemy you fought here was merely his shadow.
The real full powder Xavius waits for us within the nightmare, so we get to climb into Shaladrassil, take the battle to him, and fight against the root of the corruption. It's not going to be easy though, since the nightmare has already claimed many powerful beings, some being friends or allies in the past, but now their mind has been twisted and warped by the nightmare. Up first is Nyfendra.
You seek the dream? It seeks you too!
Nyfendra was once a member of the Green Dragonflight, charged with guarding the World Tree Shaladrassil. When Xavius' corruption of the nightmare consumed Shaladrassil, it consumed the sleeping guardian as well. Nyfendra is now nothing more than a skeletal version of herself, swarming a pestilence, ready to devour anyone or anything foolish enough to enter her lair.
I dreamed the dream. Now I wake.
Alas, poor Nyfendra. She served faithfully as guardian of the dream, only to be perverted into a gatekeeper of corruption.
We climb higher up, killing satyrs and corruption as we go along, while trying to avoid the fog and the nightmares it holds.
I have faced the nightmare before, but never has it had so thorough a stranglehold on the dream. It hungers, desperate to seed its corruption. Do not let its whispers seduce you into madness. I sense the touch of Cenarius upon this iris. It is a portal that leads to Moonblade, but the way has been sealed by dark magic. We must sever the tendrils of power that bind it. From each of these pathways, a palpable evil emanates. Choose a course, and know that I will stand with you.
By beating the creatures taken by the nightmare, we'll weaken its hold and power over the seal. There is a quest offered by Malfurion, in which we need to bring back a pure power, 4 essences of clarity, that could illuminate the darkness of the nightmare and allow all paths to become clear, or in other words, allow raiders to directly confront Cenarius without having to clear the rest of the raid. We don't have the luxury quite yet, so let's begin to clear the raid, starting off with Il'gynoth, the Heart of Corruption.
What horror is this? A tumor of nightmare infecting a world tree, here in the reflection of the Titan's own playground. If this seed takes hold, the roots of its infestation will wind their way into the heart of Azeroth. The nightmare would devour our world, claiming everything, everyone. This must not come to pass!
Lodged in the hollows of a now decrepit world tree, Il'gynoth is a manifestation of the horrors that lie at the heart of the nightmare. It is a mass of corruption, a thing that should not be. Its tendrils seep through the ground, emerging in countless horrifying eye stalks and limbs. The place where we fight him, this is the dream version of Ungudo Crater, and here we find Il'gynoth nestled within some sort of world tree, and we need to kick him out. Malfurion mentions that this was the Titans' playground, and this goes back to the days where the Titans and their keepers, mainly Freya, they were experimenting with creating new life.
This runestone speaks of a cradle of life, a place where the Titans could create new creatures. Oh, of course, the Veil of Eternal Blossoms. It was a living laboratory, much like Ungoro Crater or Sholazar Basin.
Some creatures that they used in these trials, they already existed, while some were created out of nothing.
5 keys to open our way. 5 torches to light our path.
Now, I've already gone over the whispers of Il'gynoth in great detail, and I'll link that video down below, but in essence, he whispers about the old gods. 5 keys to open their way, 5 torches to light their path. At the hour of her third death, she will usher in their coming. Now, we're not sure what the whispers mean, but I think it's fair to say that the old gods are on their way, and at the end of the raid, we'll find another clue for this, but we'll talk about that when we get there.
North, I journey to Ny'alotha.
Up next, we have Elefre Renferal in an area of the dream resembling Mulgore, all broken and destroyed. Now, a couple of you already asked me, how is it possible that we see Mulgore in the dream, if the dream is supposed to represent Azeroth without mortal influences? Elefre has a history with the Tauren, and it's most likely that she is projecting this, her dream of destroying Mulgore and the Tauren that betrayed her.
Betrayers! Liars! Murderers! Has Hamul sent his lapdogs to fetch his knife from my back? Do you remember murdering me? Or have you grown so used to slaughter that my cries of agony are long forgotten? I recall my final moments, surrounded by those I had trusted. Your satisfied sneers as I drew my last breath.
Elefre, once a mighty druid and adept shapeshifter, was led down a dark path by the belief that she was betrayed by her closest allies. Her consciousness now resides in the nightmare, damning her to an existence of fear, confusion, and hatred. What exactly happened to her is described in the novel The Shattering, Prelude to Cataclysm. As the title suggests, this story took place just before the Cataclysm hit. The world was already shaky, and alliances were hard to keep. Thrall appointed Garrosh as war chief, as he left to discover what was going on with the elements, and Amul Runetotem set up a meeting with Night Elf Druids of the Cenarian Circle. He had spent months trying to set up this meeting, agreeing not to bring any weapons, and tried to talk about peace instead of the past transgressions and battles between the Alliance and the Horde. Elefre and Amul, they presented items to each other that both of them had brought to their very first meetings with the Cenarian Circle. Both sides were actually taking this moment equally serious, and things were starting to look up. The meeting was going very well, that is, until orcs attacked. "No, hold!" cried Hamul in the orc's native tongue, but it was already too late. The Night Elves were quickly slaughtered, all of the Tauren were injured, with one even killed. Hamul was furious, but he didn't realize yet what was going on. These orcs were not part of the Horde, they were not working for Garrosh, they were of the Twilight Hammer clan, aimed at sowing unrest between the factions, and they quickly struck out at the Tauren as well. The Twilight Hammer embraced the devastation that would soon come with the arrival of Deathwing and the Hour of Twilight, and they left the bodies to be found to stir the war between the Alliance and the Horde. Hamul survived this encounter though, and he woke up in a mass grave. Night Elf and Tauren, all of them were dead. He was the only one who had survived the orcs' attack, and he sent an owl to Cairn to inform him of what had happened. Now keep in mind that Hamul, he had no idea who the orcs were working for. This led to Cairn speaking out against Garrosh, a Makura took place, and the death of the Tauren leader. All of that meant very little to Elefre, as her consciousness went to the Emerald Dream, and now the nightmare has her, and we have to put her out of her misery.
Mercy? None for you! Only gushing blood and broken bodies!
Next we move into Ursoc's lair, who was taken by Xavius during the Druid's Artifact questline.
You should have fled. Now, I'll feed your bones to the storm crows!
Ursoc is one of the wild gods, patron of the Furbolg, and closely linked to the druidic power of shapeshifting. The ancient Great Bear has long been a protector of Azeroth. But as Ursoc slumbered at his shrine in the Grizzly Hills, the world around him was plunged into corruption, and he awoke to torment the nightmare, consuming and twisting this being. Guardian Druids were unable to save their wild god from Xavius before, but now they can make things right by kicking him long enough to clear his mind from the nightmare.
The nightmare's veil is lifted. I return at last to the long slumber.
This was the Emerald Dreamway. During my long slumber, it was here I communed with the green dragonflight. Now, this sacred place has been made into a conduit for the nightmare to spread its corruption. This we cannot allow.
A Dreamway, very similar to what the Druids use, this offers portals into different locations of Azeroth, and as it helps the Druids strike quick and fast against the forces of the Legion, this also allows the Nightmare to do the same. Here we find probably one of the more interesting bosses, Ysera and her personal nightmare, her fellow dragons of Nightmare.
The strands of life have been severed! The Dreamers must be avenged!
The Emerald Dream was entrusted to Ysera for safekeeping, and the mightiest of her Green Dragon brood were assigned to stand watch over 4 portals that connected directly to Azeroth. But even before the Cataclysm, these dragons began to show signs of corruption. Now the path to the Nightmare's core runs through the dragon's lair. Ysandra, Terrar, Emeris and Lefan, they used to be world bosses during the days of classic World of Warcraft. Back then, the events of the novel Stormrage had not taken place yet, so the Nightmare had taken hold of the Dream, and within Duskwood, the Hinterlands, Veralis and Ashenvale, portals to the Dream were used by the Dragons of Nightmare to cause destruction to the world, and heroes of the Alliance and Horde, they were called to form raids and bring them down. Now during the novel Stormrage, we saw Lefan and Emeris show up, and during that storyline, Tyrande tried to call upon the powers of Elune to cleanse Emeris of his corruption, but what she didn't realize was that the dragon, he was already so corrupted that there was nothing left to heal, and instead, he simply disintegrated. Lefan was taken out by Irenicus, Ysera's consort, while Terrar became Ysandra's target. During the Cataclysm, she recruited the aid of adventurers to help her with killing Terrar, after which she claimed to find a simple life, hidden amongst mortals, and not wishing to return to the Dream in fear of becoming corrupted again. It's unexplained how or why the Nightmare was able to take her again, but it did, and now we must bring an end to the torment.
It fades. It all fades away.
Oh, Ysandra, how cruel fate can be. Cleansed of the nightmare once before, only to become its victim yet again. Some wounds never truly heal. May you find peace at last, old friend. Behold, the iris opens! The way to Cenarius is clear. Moonglade is the most sacred place in all the Dream. To think that my Shan'do could play any part in its corruption. I must see with my own eyes what horrors have befallen my beloved teacher. Steel your hearts against the darkness, heroes.
Malfurion's Shan'do, or Honor Teacher, was taken by the Nightmare despite her efforts in Val'sharah. The demigod Cenarius is the father of Druidism in Azeroth, and one of Azeroth's oldest and most powerful protectors. His disturbing slumber within the groves of Val'sharah was the first sign of the depth of the growing threat from within the Nightmare. The dark power now has complete hold over him, and he may lie beyond hope of redemption, but it doesn't stop Cenarius' Feroshan, or honored student, from trying.
Villains! You poisoned the children of the Dream!
Master,
Sacred vines, entangle the corrupted!
Cenarius is so caught up in the Nightmare that he can't see that we're trying to help him. To him, we are the corruption, we are the enemies of the Nightmare, and he does everything in his power to stop us.
Is that you, Feroshan?
Yes, Cenarius. We are here to save you!
We must strike back at the Nightmare! You fight with noble hearts. Could it be true? Could the darkness be inside of me?
Hold your weapons!
Sacred vines,
to see the
entangle the corrupted! Father, is that you? Yes, Father. I will not fail you.
Cenarius, do not listen to him.
Xavius even uses an image of Malorn, Cenarius' father, to convince him that we are the enemies, and he binds Malfurion down, preventing him from aiding us further. We are able to break the Archdruid out, and the mighty Cenarius is brought low. Now we don't kill him, we simply knock him out, and we leave Malfurion to cleanse his teacher, while the true core of the corruption awaits.
Tyroshan, how could you?
It is done. Cenarius is beaten, but my great teacher lives. Now, I must focus all of my strength to cleanse him. Xavius waits ahead in the Rift of Aln, the true heart of the nightmare. Would that I could fight at your side, heroes, but to this place I cannot go. My bond with the Emerald Dream gives me great power, but it also makes me vulnerable to the Rift's darkness. I have peered inside it and know this to be true. Destroy the Nightmare Lord. Only this way can the dream be restored and Azeroth be saved.
This is simply going to be amazing, considering how cool the nightmare was described within Stormrage, like literally tiny insects crawling over the floor. Your worst nightmares assault to your senses. This room has the absolute potential to be anything they want. They can make it as horrifying as they desire, with the Nightmare Lord showing off different scenarios, maybe undead kobolds on the attack, send chills down our spines, or it's just a white room with some fog. That's also a thing. Now, despite that, our final confrontation in the Emerald Nightmare, it takes place at the Rift of Aln, which is thought to believe to be the point where the dream itself originated. Those who venture into the nightmare will face the full extent of Xavius' power and his true form, a grotesque and distended monstrosity, one that definitely skipped leg day.
The nightmare has corrupted dragons, gods, and legends. Your downfall will be simple and swift.
We don't face Xavius alone though, since up above, her beautiful form shows up and her sweet words echo in our mind.
Embrace the dreaming, champions. It can save you.
No, I will not permit it. I'll slice into the heart of you!
Ysera aids us in our battle against Xavius as he tries to fully corrupt our mind, making us more vulnerable to the corruption of the nightmare until we'll eventually lose complete control and turn against our allies. Our only hope lies in the power of Ysera, who puts several of our fellow heroes into a deep slumber and forms a dream simulacrum, which means that she creates a dream copy, protecting the hero from corruption while still allowing them to damage Xavius. Should his attacks fully corrupt the dream copy, then they'll simply wake up and resume the fight. This goes on for quite a while as Xavius tosses nightmare blades across the room, has his nightmare ants and tentacles that attack us, but eventually we are able to bring him down and cleanse the Rift of Aln from its corruption.
My work left unfinished. Heroes, champions, step forth and hear me. The nightmare has long been a cancer eager to consume the Emerald Dream. Had Xavius succeeded, his corruption would have overwhelmed Azeroth, giving rise to a living nightmare. Your triumph restores the dream and safeguards your world. The allies of Xavius will never relent, but this road at least is closed to them. To honor your courage, I offer passage into the pure heart of the dream. As you feel the essence of life blooming beneath your feet, know that it endures thanks to what you achieved this day.
This is what the Rift of Aln is supposed to look like, and Xavius' dead form looks like what he used to be before he was turned into an ally of the Nightmare, and even before he was turned into a satyr. Across the area, we find out that allies we assumed to be dead have actually returned and are staying within the Emerald Dream. I thought it was interesting since in the case of, for example, Ursoc, we already know that the wild gods go back to the dream. We've seen it with Cenarius, we've seen this with other examples, but it seems that even druids, like Renferrel and Moonclaw, they too have have their spirit connected to the dream. Some of you on stream said that you always expected this, but I thought it was kinda cool to see that, like the demons and the Twisted Nether, druids seem to share a similar fate, only they go to the Emerald Dream. Cenarius, like I mentioned, he was only knocked out unconscious, and he's been cleansed by Malfurion. Ysera is resting in the glade, and even her fellow former Dragons of Nightmare, Terrar, Emeris and Lafon, they're chilling right there with her. Does that mean that even the green dragon aspect Ysera's out there? Well, possible, since we do find her spirits walking the lake towards a very interesting cave. I don't expect to see her make a return anytime soon, but at least there's a small glimmer of hope to bring her back into the story. Now, as a final note, before we finish the story of the Emerald Nightmare, there's this interesting cave that I mentioned called Ancient Rest, with a little flower inside, a remnant of the void. Shadow Priests are able to gain more information from this, as their artifact, the Blade of the Black Empire, it whispers to them.
Almost completely gone, as if it never existed. But the rift is deep and vast, and somewhere down there it stirs. Something has changed. The last prison weakens. We must prepare.
We know that this blade is all about the Black Empire and the Old Gods. Throughout the raid, she has more dialogue about N'Zoth and complimenting Xavius on how he uses the powers granted him by the Old Gods, and now she tells us that the last prison weakens. Combining this with the whispers of Il'gynoth, and all of it seems to point towards N'Zoth coming out of his prison. He is the final Old God that we still have left to face, and perhaps we'll see it happen in this expansion, perhaps they'll save for the next. Either way, he is out there, he is coming, and maybe, just maybe, we'll even see this Nyalova, whatever it might be. That's a story for another day though, since for now, we've cleansed the dream of the nightmare once again, Cenarius has regained his senses, and despite the allies we've lost along the way, there is potential for them to come back into the story, if Blizzard ever wants them to. There are a few questions left unanswered though, some details like where did Shaladrassil come from, how did Xavius regain control of this world tree after the events of Stormrage, how did Ysera get reclaimed by the nightmare, just a couple of bits and pieces here and there that could definitely flesh out, definitely more information about, but it is what it is, and that's where we'll end the story for today. As always, thank you very much for watching everyone, subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time guys, see ya!